Welcome to the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. I'm Agi Keramidas and my mission is to inspire you to rise up, grow, stand out and take action towards the next level of your life. I interview leaders, influencers, entrepreneurs, authors, exceptional people who can and will inspire you to improve your life. Tune in for 2 episodes each week and make sure you subscribe to the podcast to get the episodes as soon as they are released. In today's show, it is my real pleasure to speak with Memnia Theodorou. Memnia, you are an international and TEDx speaker, a dentist, and probably above everything else, an adventurer. You took part in the Clipper Round the World Yacht race, which is 5 months of sailing and over 18,000 nautical miles, becoming the first Cypriot woman to have sailed from London to Australia. You are now a coach. You are about to graduate from your master's degree in positive psychology, and your mission is to inspire and empower people around the world to awaken their confidence, step out of their comfort zone, and lead the life they've always wanted. Memnia, welcome to the show. I am very excited to be speaking with you today.
Thank you for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you. You said it so well. No need for me to add anything.
I'm very much looking forward to the conversation because you have an amazing story. It's very unconventional, I will say, very big adventure that you took, and you have grown and changed, I would imagine, more than people change over their own lifetime. You changed in a few months. So shall we start about your story then? And I would like to start about that defining moment when you say that you saw a poster recruiting for a yachting adventure. I will tell you to speak about that. So tell me what... talk to me about that moment. Take us to that time. What state were you in? I know you were in a dark place. So
I don't know if there was a defining moment, but I was looking at this poster, which is the poster of Clipper Round the World Yacht race. So the full race is 11 months. Eventually, I only did 5, but the full race is 11 months. So the tagline was achieve something remarkable, and it had all sorts of arrows on the crew on a boat, and it said, engineer and doctor and housewife and CEO and taxi driver, and then one arrow said you with a question mark. And I remember that so vividly because I remember looking at this poster, and it's so well targeted in the underground of London. You have tired city workers, and you stare at this poster after a difficult day, and you're like, could this be me? Could I see myself on this boat? And so it wasn't really though an instant decision. It was more of a gradual realization. I had seen this poster, like this race runs every 2 years, so I had seen this poster 2 years before that. And I remember admiring one of the girls on this poster because I thought, oh my God, she must be so brave to have done this. It must have been an amazing experience. And I remember being in awe looking at those posters back then. And then, as you said, I went through a quite dark place in my own life. We had, unfortunately, cancer in my family, my sister, who passed after a very, very short fight with it. And I was in a dark place in my personal life as well. The relationship I had, the list I could say was dysfunctional, up to toxic, you could say. And it was very hard to leave the relationship as well because I was in grief as well for my sister. So it was everything happening at the same time. On top of that, I had a bully at work for a manager. And so it was a very, very difficult moment. So that it was a period of life that it was very dark. And for a lot of time, I did not feel that I could let go of the grief, of the relationship, of the work. I was so craving the security, of the workplace, even though I wasn't happy. I had income coming in. I was worried about my bills if I left. And, the relationship was toxic, but it had been a relationship that was there, and it's what you know. And sometimes it's so difficult to think that you can jump out of that box, that darkness. It's you're unhappy, but you don't have the guts, or you don't know the know-how, or you're afraid of the unknown, so you get stuck in the dark place instead of reaching out. So that was me. And I think the pivotal moment for me was when I had made an offer for a house, for a flat. I had all these plans, and it's great because you have plans, and what they say, God loves. And
Yes.
so my mighty plan was that I would buy this flat, which was next to the workplace that I didn't enjoy. And I would rent out the one room. So that would pay the mortgage, and then I could quit and decide what I'll do in my life, and then I would have a flat. So that was my great plan. And as you know, it didn't work out as as I wanted. And I had given the deposit, I had transferred money, all the checks happened. And after I'd given the deposit and I signed the papers from my end, the solicitor called me and he was like, I'm sorry, but the seller pulled out. And so I didn't have a flat. Thankfully, I didn't lose my money. But at that point, I was like, I can't possibly go down the road of looking for another flat. And do I want to stay in this job that I'm so unhappy at for another, 6 to 8 months? Yeah.
It's like a spiral, isn't it? You start spiraling down, and eventually is there a bottom point that you hit?
Well, at that point, I thought that I couldn't go any lower. And it was a spur of the moment decision to actually send my application. I even remember writing this, and I was like, let's just see what happens. And I went there to the interview of Clipper. They give a presentation of what to expect. It was frightening and exciting at the same time. And they said they were happy for me to try. And the plan, again, was that I would take some months of unpaid leave to do this race. But eventually, because things turned out so badly at work, I just quit with no plan. I just quit and just shipped my stuff back to my parents' house and left the country, left the relationship, left the job, and I just went off on a sailing boat just to figure life out. So yeah.
And my understanding is that you were not an experienced sailor when you did that, were you?
Yeah, I was almost a complete novice. I mean, I studied in Thessaloniki, actually, and so I did have some sailing lessons there, but as a student. But it's it's leisure
from sailing lessons to deciding to cross the Atlantic as a beginner.
Yeah.
And that's one element of that story which when I was watching your TED talk, it was very fascinating the way you were describing it. But it was the fact you said that it was all amateur sailors, with only the skippers being professionals, which makes me even think that this daringness of the journey is incredible. Can you continue the story and tell me? Obviously, there are so many things, but I want to hear about the actual sailing adventures, both from the physical aspect, but even more from your own internal emotional or mindset aspects. What has changed?
What hasn't changed? I mean, as you say, in 5 months, you change so much as a person. And, this is a testament also to Clipper, the organization, that what they want to do. Sir Robin Knox-Johnson, the creator of this race, his own aspiration is to actually showcase to everyday people, amateurs, that it is possible. And it just goes to show how much we can all achieve when we are surrounded by leaders who believe in our potential when we don't even know it's there. So it's so inspirational that this man created this race for mainly amateurs. I mean, there is a balance. They do try to put some people with sailing experience in the teams as well, but it's a good proportion of the team is amateurs, and they go through training. So the struggle starts from training, actually. And I have to say that the least difficult element is the sailing itself, living on board. So you've done your sailing part, you're on deck for X amount of hours, you're on deck for your watch, for your rota, let's say, and then you have to go down below, and the boat is smashing on waves, is at an angle, it rocks left, right, and center. It's like being inside a washing machine. So it is indeed. So when you're on deck, actually, you have to deal with the elements and the water, and you're getting so wet from head to toe. But when you finish all that, there is not a warm, dry, cozy place for you to go. You go down below. There is no luxuries at all. There are no showers. You can't take a shower to wash off the salt. And you don't have a bed, a comfortable bed. You have a bed bunk, and you're sleeping tied into that. So you're not, you don't fall off when the boat takes an angle. So living down below is actually harder than the sailing. So you're always tired, and you're always like a little monkey, because you're using your 4 limbs, like arms and legs, to walk around. It takes you 5 minutes to walk like 2 meters. It's incredible. It's very funny. But I have some great memories, from sailing. And again, you see how much you can achieve. And because, well, I have to say that initially I didn't sign up to do 5 months. From my dental office, all I could see was like, oh, if I cross an ocean, if I cross the Atlantic, that's such a huge achievement already. Mm-hmm. And so I signed up for just 1 leg. But then as my experience grew and my skills grew, and I became more confident, and I started enjoying it, and we had the camaraderie with the crew, I found a new family. So as that grew, I started thinking, well, nothing holds me back. I left the job, I left the relationship, all my stuff is in boxes, nobody's waiting for me to go back. Like, why not stick around a bit longer? Mm-hmm. So then I signed up for another leg, which was to go from Rio de Janeiro to Cape Town. And I when I arrived there, I kind of felt that, I've done the hot leg, across the Atlantic, and then I've done the difficult bit at the bottom of the Atlantic. But then there is the huge, mighty Southern Ocean that will take me to Australia. And I kind of felt that it was the continuation of the previous 2 legs. And I felt that if I left at that point, that I would have left something incomplete. I had pretty much run out of money at that stage. And my dad said, well, I'm going to fund this for you. I paid him back, but I paid him back afterwards. But it's very funny because it's a bit surreal to think, because my parents had gone through the loss of a child already, right? So they were grieving the loss of one of their children. And then there you have the other child putting her life at risk, going into this adventure that could get her killed. And they are very brave and heroic, because, well, my mom especially, because she said, I'm very scared for you going there, but I can understand why you're doing it, so I'm with you. Mm-hmm. And that gave me permission to enjoy myself there and just put myself there. And when my dad funded the 3rd leg, he was like, oh, just don't tell your mom that I did it. And so sweet. And so I continued to Australia. And then that's another funny thing, because, well, that was that. I had no more money. But I was enjoying it so much that I was pestering the Clipper headquarters if they had any sponsorship. Like every stopover, I would say, do you have any sponsorships, or could you fund me, or whatever? Like I wasn't knocking down on their doors, but I would just throw it in there every time I would go in. Mm-hmm. So, and I remember when I was in Australia, I was on the west of Australia, and then they were going to go east, and the boats were about to leave, and it was like 1 day before the boats left for the rest of their journey to go around the whole of Australia. And I hadn't found a sponsor, so that would have been the end of my journey. And it's very funny because a series of unlikely events happened, and I almost slept outside because I nearly missed my reservation in the hostel that I was staying. I took a different route. It's a very funny set of circumstances that happened, coincidence that happened. So I went into a coffee shop that was not in my normal route to get to the boats. And there was only one man sitting in this coffee shop, and he was the CEO of Clipper. And I said, "Good day, sir." I knew him, have a good morning or whatever. And he said, "Yeah, have a lovely day as well." And then I went to get my coffee. And then as I was waiting for my coffee, I was like, this is the last day, he's never going to see me again. I'm not going to lose anything by asking, and then I took my coffee and all the confidence that I could muster. And then I said, this is the last day. If nobody else had signed up, then they're not going to sign up now. It's the last day. They have to go through training. Nobody is going to take on the spot now. I know that my boat has one place left, and I've got all my stuff here. All my gear is here. I'm ready to go.
Ready to go.
Yeah. Is there any chance? And, he's a man of very few words. So the only thing that he said is like, let me put my thinking cap on and pop by the office later on. And so they gave me a sponsorship. They funded my last leg.
Amazing.
And I share this story because I also want to say to people that sometimes, especially to women, sometimes we are waiting for opportunities to come. We are waiting to be discovered. We are waiting that someone is going to notice our talents or our abilities or our potential and just like drag us along so we can achieve bigger things. But actually sometimes we have to put ourselves out there. If I hadn't asked, then I wouldn't have got the funding. So this is a message that I've used later on in life as well. Like I've used that lesson from that day later on in life, and not wait and not be sitting around and waiting for people to give me opportunities, but creating them for myself. And I think we can all learn from that.
Absolutely. And it's a wonderful, very empowering message to go out and get it, basically. Yes, it's taking the action, the uncomfortable action when we feel that our heart is pounding, and but we know that this is the right thing to do. And it's an amazing story. And I want to ask you if you would share with me a mindset shift from before and after the trip. I know that everything has changed, obviously, but if you were to tell me one of the biggest changes in the way you were perceiving things.
I think the biggest change is seeing that a lot more is possible for us than we think. When I was in the dark place, all that I was thinking, and it was weighing me down, is what would happen if I lose my job, and who's going to pay my bills, and how can I do that, and what are the options? And there are no options. I have to be stuck in this dark place. Whereas after the journey, the main mindset shift was that anything is possible, and I understand that realistically, not everything is possible for me, but the mindset has changed. So for instance, I do locuming as a dentist, as you know. So I take short-term contracts and I move around the country, and I make almost the same amount of money that I did in my previous job, but I have the freedom of choice. I don't ask anyone for holidays, and my bills are paid. Sometimes I'm thinking that to myself that this option existed back then as well, but I could not even see it. Because my mindset was that, oh my God, helpless and hopeless. Whereas the mindset afterwards is that whatever comes my way, I can deal with it, because I've been in the rough seas, and I've been in tough weathers, and we almost died a few times, but we managed. So the mindset shift is that a lot more is possible than we give ourselves credit for, and that sometimes we limit ourselves as well. Like we are the ones limiting ourselves. Yes, circumstances play some part, the country you're born in, the financial situation of your family, all of these things play some part, but the main limitation is in our heads. This is what I realized, and so Yeah, and I have to say that I also got like a newfound appreciation for life. You know, when you
Mm-hmm.
lose a loved one, and when you are in a toxic relationship that has toyed with your sense of self-esteem and self-confidence, you kind of lose a little bit the will to live at some point. And so I found a newfound appreciation for life, like to enjoy life and experiences. And it was a total transformation. And actually, now that I'm studying positive psychology, I know this thing has a name. It's called post-traumatic growth. And actually, it's not that
Hmm.
uncommon. And it's this old notion of whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So, and it's not that uncommon. It's about 30% of people who go through trauma
Yeah.
have the potential of experiencing post-traumatic growth. And it has influenced and affected me so much, so that now I am studying post-traumatic growth and how that can happen in relation to ocean sailing. And this is going to be my dissertation,
Oh,
post-traumatic.
fascinating. Wow.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So this is how much your life can change when you have a rich
Yeah.
and meaningful and powerful experience like that. I went on to not only change my life, but now studied at the university, and hopefully I'll produce a publishable paper that will showcase the world that actually this thing happens more often than you think.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sailing or sports, it doesn't have to be sailing, but sports in general and exercise can be a contributing factor to you experiencing that growth, even if you went through unimaginable trauma. So it's more common that we think and feel. Yeah.
Very positive message, Memnia. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit now about your experience as a speaker.
Mm.
So you say that when you gave your TEDx talk, it was actually the first time that you were doing public speaking. So it's a very different kind of fear and a very different kind of courage, isn't it? On the one hand, you have the oceans and the winds and a very extreme weather and so survival fears, and on the other hand you have no fear of survival but the greatest fear for most people, which is to speak in front of others. So how are those fears different? Tell me of that, and how did you deal with both of them eventually?
Well, I have to say that the way I dealt with that fear was with huge amounts of preparation.
Yes.
Um, I was offered that position to speak at TEDx, and it took me 2 months to say yes to the curator. I was so afraid, so afraid. And I don't remember who said this, that people are afraid more of public speaking than death itself. And it was definitely accurate for me. And actually, the first sentence that I started my TEDx talk was, I would much rather be in the Southern Ocean fighting for my life than here. It's, for me, it's more comfortable being in the Southern Ocean facing death than standing in front of 400 people. So it took me 2 months to say yes. And what I hadn't realized is that these positions normally are not offered to speakers. You have to pitch yourself, you have to go through a panel, they have to make corrections or whatever. And I was offered the place. No
Yes.
questions asked, because of my achievement. And I didn't know it at that time, but I was so scared that I couldn't see myself doing it. Anyway, eventually they kind of convinced me, and I said, well, part of me wants to contribute back to the society what I've learned, and part of me wants to be that, that lighthouse for other people who are in dark moments. Others had been that lighthouse for me when I was in dark moments, and hearing their stories helped me move forward. So I said, look, you've done what you've done, the sailing achievement, and you can leave it up to that. But if you really want to contribute to the lives of others, you should share your story. And I think this is what got me to sharing the story. And I have to say, I was petrified. I have never prepared for anything in my life as much as I did for this talk, even for exams. I found an article on a popular website, which talked about the preparation of TEDx. And I followed that to the T. Like I rehearsed. First, I wrote the thing. It took me like a month to write it. And then I rehearsed myself in my room, videotaping myself and correcting my posture and stuff. And then I rehearsed in front of family and then friends. And then I went and found an actor who could help me with stage presentation and all sorts of stuff that I did voluntarily, because this is another thing that people don't realize, especially people from the big countries, like the States or the UK or Australia. I spoke to he was a fellow sailor from the boats, and he had been a TEDx speaker in Sydney. And he told me, when I was thinking about taking this opportunity and be a speaker, he said to me, "Oh, don't worry, they'll have specialists and they'll do like voice coaching, and they'll have body language experts, and they're gonna work through this with you. Don't worry." And so I arrived in tiny little Cyprus, having all these big ideas in my head. And I think a lot of people like from the UK or the big countries don't realize how limited our small countries are. So I arrived in front of the curator and I was like, "Yeah, we're gonna do some coaching," and and he was like, "Nope, there's no funding for that stuff. So it's all on you, and it's just you and me and whatever we work out." And I was like, "Oh, great." And so that's why I went out of my way and I spoke to actors and I rehearsed massively. And this was my way of dealing with the anxiety of being a speaker. And a lot of people have commented, like yourself, like before we started this interview, they commented on how natural I looked and how the talk flowed or whatever. And when I first heard these comments, I was like, seriously, I was panicking inside of me. I had been crying the whole day before I went on stage. I was the last speaker. I watched the whole day, tech going wrong, people forgetting their lines. I had watched people messing up their slides. Like I had watched all of this happening, and I was the last speaker of the day. And I had been a mess. And so yeah, I was and it just goes to show again how much good preparation can help you in difficult situations. People underestimate the importance of preparation. And I have found that a lot ever since as a speaker, but even as a dentist. I don't know about you, I think female dentists get that a lot from other female staff members who are not dentists. They get this, "Oh, you're so lucky. It comes naturally to you. You're so lucky you have a degree," or "You're so lucky you're a natural speaker." And I'm just thinking there is nothing natural about me being speaker, because I was dreading it, and I'm not lucky. I put a lot of work in it. So sometimes when we look at people X amount of steps ahead of us, we just think that they have an advantage or a head start, and they might have a little bit of an edge, but more often than not, it's hard work, and it goes unnoticed for years until you hit the spotlight and everyone is like, "Oh, it was an overnight success." And almost nobody's an overnight success. So that was another big lesson for me.
It's one of my favorite quotes, that it takes years to become an overnight success.
Yeah,
and it is,
takes years.
You're so right that many people think of the finished product, or someone who is 2-3 years ahead, and think that, oh, they had it easy or it happened. We tend to easily not recognize the grind that led to the painful journey, the adversities, and you have shown great resilience. And when you were talking about your dealing with your nerves at the TED Talk, I think you had a good experience of dealing with adversities. It might have been of a different kind, but I think in the end, and tell me what you think, no matter what kind of fear it is, it's always like a voice or an instinct inside our head. It's nothing that it's really on the outside, is it? It's just inside of us.
I mean, there are real risks, but the ones that hold us back, the fears that hold us back, are mainly in our heads, because no rational person would have gone on this sailing trip. It's extremely adventurous and dangerous. So that's a real fear, that you could possibly die. So if it was rational, nobody would go. But people do these things, and yet we're afraid to stand in front of, 10 more people or 20 people. Like, what's the worst that can happen? They will laugh at us. What's the big deal about that? So a lot of people, stay in their comfort zones because of these fears that we have in our heads. But I also have to say that I recognize that I too have fears, even after this sailing journey, and I still have them to the day. It's just that they are new fears, and you know how they say every level has a different devil. So I got over the fear of public speaking, but now I may have fear of, I don't know, marketing or advertising my services or whatever it is. So the fears are just alternating, and they keep changing and evolving depending on your level. I think what I've learned is that you have to do things before you're ready, and you must not wait until fear subsides and then you take steps. You could be preparing for 10 years for this sailing journey in the shores of the UK, and you will never be ready. You have to actually take the plunge and go for the sailing journey, and that will be both your experience and your outcome. It's you have to take the plunge before you're ready. This is what I realized. And just do it while you're afraid. Take calculated risks. Take calculated risks, of course. Do your preparation as much as you can. I didn't just sign up on this sailing journey. I did do like 4 weeks of training. So prepare, ask mentors and coaches, but do it before you're ready. Do it while you're scared.
There is a fine line, I agree with you, between being prepared and then procrastinating.
Yes.
So you reach a level of adequate preparation, then it's time to move on and not keeping on preparing. Memnia, I want to ask you also about your journey or your transition from dentistry towards coaching. And there are two reasons why I ask that. First is that I know of quite a few dentists, myself included, that we are in a similar, change of or transition between careers. And I want to ask you, do you think there's something in common between the two professions or
commonalities? There are some commonalities. I can't say that I have met many dentists who transition into coaching, and
I have seen a few.
Yes, we will create a mastermind group after
and I think that's how I found you, because I realized that you fitted that description.
Yeah, we should all get together when we can get together and meet. But the thing is, there are a lot of negative connotations around the world, word coaching and who is a coach, because it's still an unregulated profession. So I pushed against calling myself a coach for a long time. And I had started running speaking and workshops, just sharing my personal experience and how it could help other people. So I became kind of like a workshop trainer, and I took some training and I was training others to see the world with different eyes, let's say. But I wanted more. I wanted to be able to offer more. And I was also being asked all the time if I could help people individually on their own transformation journeys. So that's where I found the Masters in Applied Positive Psychology. There are a few around the world, not many, but this one in London, in UEL, University of East London, offered also coaching psychology. So it's a combined masters of applied positive psychology and coaching psychology. And I thought to myself, I'm not sure if I want to be a coach yet. I don't know enough about this profession, but it couldn't be harm of learning what this is about. I might need these skills. So that's why I chose that course over just pure applied positive psychology. And through this journey of becoming a coach, you learn so much about yourself first. You understand yourself first. You understand others better. And I found that I enjoy it so much because you can be there alongside people who are changing their lives one step of the way without the need of going into a sailboat, And At the beginning, I didn't think there were many commonalities between dentistry and coaching. And they're very, psychology in general is so different from the medical profession, so vastly different that for the first 4 or 5 months, I struggled to understand just the mindset behind those two professions. The medical profession is like a straight line. This is how we know, this is evidence-based, this is how we do it. If you deviate from that, there is punishment. This is the medical, the medical outline.
And then dogma, yes.
Yeah. And then you have the psychology mindset, which is, well, there isn't one truth that fits every person because people are so varied and different. We just have various theories. And then from those theories, you can extrapolate some generalizations, but they won't fit the whole population. And for this person, it might be this or that and da-da-da-da. It was just so complicated. But I struggled a lot transitioning from the medical profession to that. But I think where the medical profession has helped me, dentistry has helped me in coaching, is that we're so used to paying attention to that one person, and our whole undivided attention is on that patient, on that chair. And when it's us, the patient and the nurse, and you have staff members and receptionists, the most important person is that patient on the chair. So we're so used to having all our energy and focus in helping that patient. And so it can be, stressful at times, but we have a skill that can be utilized for coaching as well, because that person, the most important person in that room, is the client, the coaching client, who wants to transition from somewhere dark and somewhere lighter and wants to change their life. So that has been very helpful. That's a commonality between the two professions. And I think also
I think we have a sense of responsibility as well. Because you are very solely responsible of the outcome of what's going to happen. So we do have this sense of responsibility.
Yeah, and the sense of well-being. I mean, we're treating patients as dentists. Obviously, it's very different in coaching because you're not taking on clinical cases. Those are for the psychologists, the psychiatrists, the therapists. So as a coach, you don't take on clients who need help to get really out of dark places. You take clients who are functioning and they're okay, but they're just a bit unhappy with their lives. So that there is that distinct difference as well. But having said that, again, we're focusing on their well-being, and that is again a commonality between the medical profession and coaching. So you're focusing on making them better, whether it's their teeth or their mind. That's a bit different, but you are focused on their well-being. So I hadn't thought of that, because actually the medical profession, the dogma, like you said, had been difficult for me to adjust, to coaching. But there are also some skills that I have brought along from dentistry, let's say, into my coaching practice. Absolutely.
Have you been doing any sailing lately then? Are you still doing adventurous things like that?
Adventurous things, yes. Sailing, not that much. I had done for the couple of years after this race, I did do, but then I spend most of my time in Cyprus nowadays, and I haven't found the level of competitiveness here that I wanted. So it's kind of dwindled away. I don't really practice sailing as much, but I am an adventurer in my course. So I've done various other things, adventures, and even pushed myself even beyond that limit of sailing, I would say. I mean, yes, the sailing was life-threatening in occasions, but the most recent one that I've done was to trek in Zanskar, which is in the Himalaya. It's a river. It's a frozen river. It's not a lake. It's a ferocious river which freezes in the winter. And it's in the area of near Kashmir in India. It's called Zanskar, and it's in a canyon. So it only gets sunlight for some hours in the day. So it's got shadow. So it's very cold, and it can go down to minus 40 degrees Celsius. So for me, that was a huge step outside my comfort zone again, because I come from Cyprus. It's like 50 degrees in the summer. So So
you're used to extremes.
yeah. So to go to minus 40 actually was something that did put a level of anxiety in me. And I did wonder about my sanity signing up on this.
It's a thing that I get from what you're saying, and I agree with it, is that our many people have confused comfort with happiness, whereas it's when we really explore and are uncomfortable in either in any different way, that's when we truly grow and become happy, because our happiness is really related to our growth. Memnia, I would like to ask you also some quick fire questions to start wrapping this interview up. It's been a fascinating conversation. Can you tell me, what does personal development mean to you?
Well, that's hard to define, but for me, it's a sense of finding a balance between always growing, like you say, but also be grateful and happy at where you are. So I struggled a lot at looking at my own achievements, and I think a lot of people do. Like, you complete one task and then you're very quick to say, okay, what's next? And you're never really happy. So for me, personal development is the combination of the two. So always keep growing, always have your eye on the next thing, but at the same time, look back and look how much you've achieved, look how many people you've got in your life to be grateful for, and just be happy. So always growing, but be happy with everything you've achieved so much at that stage. It's a fine balance, and I think a lot of people struggle with the latter part, the being grateful in the moment.
Yes, it's what Tony Robbins says, the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. Exactly.
Yes, very true.
Memnia, if you could go back in time and meet your 18-year-old self, what's the one piece of advice you would give her?
I don't want to say don't do dentistry. No, I can't say that, because it had been my dream to become a dentist, and it's been a journey on its own, but it's been tough at times. I think what I would tell, I was a very brave kid, I think, at that point, like, you're oblivious to the risks, just go for it. But I think the one thing that I would say to myself is not to stress too much about the profession that you're going to choose now, because it can change later on. And I think a lot of, the educational system in many countries puts that stress on us. Like, at 18, you must know what you want to do, especially in the Southern Mediterranean countries and maybe some Asian countries, maybe not so much in the Western world, but there is this level of expectation and stress that you need to have figured out what you want to do for the rest of your life. And I think that comes from a different generation, that people picked professions and found jobs and they stuck with that until they retired. So it came from that notion, I think. But for me, I realized that, it's okay. You can change professions halfway through your life, even if it's a medical profession, because it's so much effort goes into becoming a doctor that very often I felt like, if I change professions, that means all my years went to waste, in medical school and stuff. But actually, what I would want to tell to every 18-year-old listening is that, don't overstress about this profession choice. You can change down the line. The world is not going to end. Your parents are still going to talk to you. It's fine. You're going to be okay.
I can certainly relate to that, and I will add that a factor there that makes it challenging. It can be done, of course, but you have to challenge your existing identity up to that point and shift it. So I'm talking from personal experience. So let me ask you something else then. If you could wave a magic wand and change something in the world as it is today, what would you change?
Oh, in the whole world?
In the whole world.
Just make guns disappear. That's what I would say. Like, nothing good comes from guns, If nobody had guns, nobody would have to die. So just, there would be no wars. We would not kill animals or each other. It's, Okay.
And tell me, emerging from this whole conversation that we had, if you were to give the listener one actionable item, what would you say?
I would say that thing that they have in their minds and they're afraid to do, it can be done. And if it seems a little bit impossible, to not be afraid to ask for help. All the people who are successful, they have help, and don't be embarrassed to ask help. I have coaches myself, like for me, people who coach me. I have therapists. I have whatever I need. I get the help. I do not hold back. If I need help, I will ask for it. So that thing that you want to do in your lives, it can be done. And if you need a bit of help, just go and ask for it. And, you know, that's the one thing that I will say. Just take the help that you need.
Beautiful. Thank you. Memnia, how can people connect with you and find out more about you?
I am most active on Facebook. So my page is Dr. Memnia Theodorou, Motivational Speaker Coach. I also have my website. Obviously, there is a contact form there as well, which is memniatheodorou.com. I'm also on Instagram and LinkedIn, obviously, with the same name. So if you put Memnia, there are not many Memnias in the world. So hopefully I'll come up. But I'm most active on Facebook page. And I should say, I mean, I know this conversation is in English, but I do have a Greek-speaking group on Facebook as well. It's called Believe That You Can. Okay. So any Greek-speaking women is for women. That's the only thing that I have just for women is a Facebook group. It's an empowering group for women, so feel free to join as well.
We do have listeners in both Greece and Cyprus, so it's yes. Memnia, is there anything you were hoping I would ask you today and completely missed it?
No, I came like open-minded. Maybe that you would ask me something about dealing with coronavirus. I don't know.
That was really, that was not in my plan. But if you want to tell me a brief comment about that, I would be very interested to find out.
The only thing that I would say to people, and I think people need to hear this, is just to accept their emotions that they go through in this period of time. I mean, we've had a lot of changes, a lot of ups and downs, and every change is difficult, especially if it's not something that we chose. And so it's okay to feel angry and disappointed and sad and frustrated, and it's okay. Just don't force yourself to feel happy and positive all the time if you don't want to. Obviously, if you want to, be happy and positive. Just accept the emotions and the feelings and know that nothing lasts forever. Yeah.
That's a very solid piece of advice. Thank you. I want to thank you very much, Memnia, for a fascinating conversation. I truly enjoyed it, and you do have a very, if I may say so, a very motivational style in your speaking, and there are many things that people can hopefully get inspired by and take some action to change their lives and improve their lives. So I want to thank you very much. Wish you all the best with your mission, with your dissertation, which I know it's due very soon. Any last parting words?
No, I just want to say thank you again to you for this opportunity, and thank you for the compliments as well. I don't know if motivational style comes naturally to me, or I'm just so passionate about the human potential. But hopefully people listening would have taken some inspiration from today.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and rate Personal Development Mastery on Apple Podcasts, and also share this episode with someone who you think will benefit from it. If you want to become part of an exclusive community, gain access to unique content, and at the same time support this podcast, then become my patron. The link is in the show notes, or you can type bit.ly/pdmpat. If you want to know more about what I do and how I can help you, join my Facebook group Personal Development Mastery. Again, the link is in the show notes, or you can simply type bit.ly/pdm group. And until next time, stand out, don't fit in.